Evening, everyone. Welcome to our June 14th meeting. And as was brought to my attention by Nancy, today our flag is 246 years old. So will you please all rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on our agenda is the minutes for the consideration. Oh, the roll. I guess we should know who's here. Thank you. Dave.
Chairman John Curry.
Here.
Vicky Gannon.
Here.
Nancy Gerbino.
Here.
Ken Christensen.
Here.
Jack Mattis.
Here.
Bruce Prince.
Here.
Christopher Zaberto.
Here. Thank you. I know why you did that, because there's probably nothing in the resolution that you could find, huh?
I just sent one thing to Dave.
You made her day. First on our agenda is the minutes from May 10th, 2023. I didn't see any.
I appreciate the detail that was captured, especially there was a discussion about a legal issue.
Yes.
Very well done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so first on our agenda tonight is the Dynamite Properties proposed subdivision of a parcel adjacent to Green Tree Road. It's a proposed preliminary subdivision and open development area. The application is for subdivision of two parcels into three residential lots, accessed off of Green Tree Road through town right of way and New York State Department of Transportation easement areas. And for the record, the property is in an R80 zoning district. I would like to read out before you start the latest emails and letters that the board has received. David Alpert, Maria Brownham, Virginia Goodfriend Sheridan, Amy Cunningham Smith, Margaret Brady, Mary Vickers, Sarah Diamond Meyer, Diane Hoslinger, Say Patrick Dandy. I'm sorry, I didn't your name, and Brenda Yates. Thank you. Obviously, this is open for as long as you want. Anybody who wants to send a letter or an email, more than welcome to. Good evening.
Evening. My name is Peter Scott. I'm an architect and engineer representing the applicant. Before you, I have a map, overall map that sort of shows the current state of the subdivision. And on the right-hand side, I kind of made a synopsis of what we submitted in regards to this project for evaluation by your board. We submitted subdivision and stormwater management plans, landscaping plans for detention basin and a rain garden, a tree preservation plan, wetland buffer mitigation landscape plan, wetland buffer offsite mitigation area, long-form EAF, traffic study, open space response letter, New York State rail trail crossing plan, rail trail signage examples, a SWIP, a drainage report, a wetland buffer mitigation plan, a habitat analysis assessment report. And we've also applied for various permits. What we have been has been reviewed and approved is the Bureau of Fire Prevention has approved the proposed common driveway for fire and police access. The New York State DOT driveway easement as recorded. We have that with us. We've also gotten a SHPO review, preliminary DEC review, Westchester County Department of Health deep tests evaluation. And so this just sort of brings up the speed of what we're looking at in the project. The paperwork's lengthy, but basically what we've been trying to do is address many of the issues which have been raised by yourselves and your consultant. The final consultant memo of items partially addressed consists of three items. The first is we have submitted to New York State DOT for a driveway crossing permit, but they have indicated to us that they'd like to have a secret determination before proceeding with that review. The other comment we had is we have proposed some planting in the neighboring property to our easement. And we offered that to sort of mitigate any visual impacts that might take place with the existing right-of-way development with that of a driveway. The last item is we proposed open space dedication to the town of Somers of a 1.6 acre parcel on the southern section of our project, basically to provide access from the rail trail to lands currently owned by the town of Somers. So in all aspects of the project, we've tried to evaluate environmental impacts and address them accordingly. And I know you can evaluate your potential secret referral for this project. And again, I offer all the items that we've proposed. I can go into those at length if you'd like, any questions to answer. But at this stage, I think we've turned over every stone on the project, literally, and probably physically. And we'd like to move forward if we can with the board in terms of some sort of referral to the town board. Before we go any further, though, I'd introduce Mr. Crusoe, the attorney of record, who basically would go over the easement if you could.
Good evening, Michael Caruso, Cuddy and Fader for the applicant. Does anybody have any direct questions? I know we had some off-channel discussions in a letter from my office today on some easement scope issues. Is there anything directly that needs to be addressed?
Dave?
Well, I think it's been requested a couple different times. Could you, as specifically as possible, explain to the board, to the public, what your rights are with respect to this easement and what the requirements are with respect to the easement? Now, and there are certain things that we've seen in the record in the past about speed humps, stop signs, locked gates. And I didn't see any of that indicated on the plan that's been presented. So I think it's helpful for this board and for the public to understand, are those requirements of the easement? If they are, then they should be shown on the plan. So,
well, not necessarily. Well, there's a point that Peter and I can talk to on that, which is there's special conditions that attend to the highway work permit and that relate to the easement. The easements for ingress and egress relating to the lot count in the subdivision, when it was applied for, which has changed over time based on whatever map you're looking at. But ingress and egress for residential purposes, that's the scope of the easement. It was last issued at 16.5 feet wide, which you know, and obviously, Dave, it has the speed bump, stop sign, controlled access are part of the conditions. The reasons why they're not shown discreetly or explicitly in certain respects, there are rumble strips shown on either side of the cross, is because when we meet, presumably with DOT, those are conditions that are going to be tailored at that time, discussed and negotiated. The scope of the easement will never change. It's ingress and egress for those lots, for the owner of those lots, as shown on a subdivision, and subject to whatever board approval should emanate. So that's not going to change. But the reason why some of those details, if you will, aren't fine point is because we have to meet with DOT and have that discussion first to find out if it's going to be 2 stop signs, if it's going to be any other warning that's not in the special conditions, which I don't anticipate. And what is controlled access? Is it a padlock? Is it a remote control? Is it a keypad? It could be a number of things. So we don't add that detail to that level, to that granular level for an administrative reason. You know, it's just we don't know until we sit down with DOT and do that. So hope that answers that question.
But if I understood you before, DOT is not going to meet till we do secret? Isn't that what you said before?
well, so procedurally, your board needs to complete the environmental review,
Right.
whether you're going to issue a negative declaration or a positive declaration. And as part of the documentation that I provided to you from February 1st, we provided you with parts 1, 2, and 3 of the environmental assessment form. Part 1, the applicant filled out and prepared. Parts 2 and 3 are your responsibility. And I guess part of the discussion that we collectively should have is, kind of traffic and safety. And is the board going to, how can the board move forward with, and help me out with this now, okay? But how can the board go forward with doing the environmental review without understanding if there are some parameters that with respect to public safety relative to the crossing? If,
And traffic.
and traffic, I mean, that's,
It's all conflated together.
yeah,
Right. Well, SY9 doesn't show a stop sign on either side currently. So if that's something that needs to be added, that's a point we can add. We don't want to, I don't think it changes the scope of the issues that the board's reviewed under SECRA on traffic safety, and ingress and egress off the site. So if we have to add a detail on this Y9 or any of the drawings, that can be done. But you're right, Dave, that isn't on that particular drawing at this time. On the lock mechanism or on the controlled access, look, we could show a lock of some kind, but that could change. But
well, I mean, my sense is that it doesn't necessarily have to be a padlock or that sort of, but it could be like a key fob,
Mhm.
where you
Yep.
hit it and the gate opens. I mean,
Mhm.
it's controlled access, and
Right.
essentially that's locked until somebody pushes a button. But it's showing that particular component on the plan so that it's part of the evaluation that the board is considering. So in some way, it should be recognized.
Well, we could have something, it could be a condition of your granting of a resolution that we include a gate and a stop sign.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple as that.
Right. Well, it's yes. And
that would conform, Dave. That's what that would conform. I know that's what you're driving at.
Right.
We're just trying to say that that's included in what we're discussing. That's in the easement. It should
Okay.
be in the plan. You're right.
that's all.
I think we all agree.
Do you have any other comments no, Dave?
No, I think the one follow-up from the last meeting, the Open Space Committee asked for a specific report, a natural resources report, which was prepared and submitted. And it concludes as the EAF indicates that there are no species of environmental concern. I think that's kind of the term that DEC uses, found on the property. So I think that was kind of the last piece of information that was being requested, other than some of the engineering components that may be required. But that, I think, having this discussion about the easement and access and control and safety and having it clarified was very important.
Before we move on to, unless you have anything else, before we move on to Steve, is there any other board comments or questions on the easement or anything?
I have a comment. You haven't appeared before us for some time. The last time you did, I commented that in your application, you gave examples of crossings, but they were all up in Putnam County, and I requested that you address the crossings in our town. And you submitted a packet, but you haven't been back since you submitted that packet. When I examined the packet, I don't understand. I guess you did it from a map. I guess you didn't do it in person, because you left off the main nearby crossing known as Jilko, which has about 42 trucks a day that crosses down in Granite Springs at the post office. So I wonder what kind of examination you did of our town. I'll leave that off.
If I may, we utilized data with DOT and we evaluated all the crossings that
So
were
you didn't
visible.
in person.
We did not.
Uh-huh. Well, that's a major crossing, and it's the next crossing down south from where these houses are being proposed.
I think what we're trying to do is focus on crossings of a similar scale of this project. There's major roads. We gave a list of all the crossings in our report, but we're trying to give you examples of something of a similar scale.
Well,
Again, we have 3 houses.
well,
Granite Springs Road,
I looked at all those crossings, whether you were there or took it off a map. None of them, as far as I could see, because I was just at the site, none of them seemed to be anywhere near the complexity of the complexity is the wrong word. The scale of this crossing. This crossing is in the middle of the woods, and it's got elevations along the side, which cut off visibility from the driveways that are going down. Most of the crossings or all the crossings that you showed were major intersections with clear visibility
Yes.
from a variety of angles. And this is in the middle of the woods. It's in the middle of an area that is highly used, and there isn't any intersections near it except for the Jilco, and it's a place where that's used quite extensively. And I'm concerned about the danger of the crossing, and I'm not sure that a gate is going to be that helpful, assuming you have to put a gate, because as far as I know, the DOT permit that was established before had the issue of a locked gate. I'm concerned that this intersection, this crossing, does not relate to the crossings that you showed us. That's something that's troubling me.
Well, again, if I may, we did go look at crossings north of here, and they were of much smaller scale, similar to house sites. Our first submission was all the properties going to the north. When you go to the south, unfortunately, most of the crossings are major roads, not single driveways servicing small users. So that's when we say a scale of a project. As you get closer, if you move south from here, you're looking at regular roads, not driveway crossings. So a scale of it, when we say scale, we're saying residential driveway scales are north of here. As you move farther south, they're bigger projects. The existing crossings are that of major roads, streets.
It does beg the question, why doesn't Jilco have any gates?
Pardon me?
At the Jilco crossing, I'm not aware of any gates there that prevent any of this, right? I mean, that's probably a non sequitur to this case, but if we're going to bring up and do a comparison to that, here we have a heavily utilized commercial crossing with no gates. And we seem to have a lot of pushback on a driveway that would have significantly less vehicular traffic than a commercial establishment like Jilco does. And
Right.
I've been a customer of theirs. I'm aware of the volume that they do and the supplies that they provide to a lot of the contractors and builders in the area. So I'm just, and again, it's probably not relevant, but it is relevant in the sense that, we made a comparison to larger scale issues down county, or not down, well, yeah, down pretty much down county. Right. And then you tried to compare north of here. Would have helped us if we understood that the reason in the beginning when you presented the northerly comparisons, that why you did that, because there are none south of here. We didn't have any similar to that. That would have helped us and maybe prevent some 2 months delay in getting an answer regarding the actual crossing. But I don't know where I'm going to summarize with this, but I find it interesting, and I guess it's more of a comment than it is a question. I just find it interesting that we have in our town, and a lot of folks are concerned about pedestrian safety, and yet we have what I see to be a pretty unsafe condition at another location just south of where we're proposing. So just for the sake of perspective, right, I'm just trying to get a handle on the easement that requires a gate. Does that gate have to go across the driveway or across the rail trail? And I ask that because I don't use the rail trail regularly, so I'm not one to give anything factual. But when you drive on 35 and you drive on 6 and you drive on other, major road crossings, those gates go across the rail trail, not across the road. So explain to me so I understand. the driveway where the gate goes?
Our gates, if a gate was installed, would be would be cutting off the driveway itself, not the rail trail.
Right.
The rail trail plans we prepared, we worked with the DOT on SY9 to meet all their criteria. And we went back and forth to achieve that drawing. But we couldn't move farther than that, even though we applied for a driveway permit because of the issue we had with acceptance and a secret determination. So again, as we can, we are hoping to waive the need for the gate with DOT. We've got no answer to the affirmative of that. But push came to shove, if we had to put a gate on our property because of DOT permitting requirements, we would do so.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. And I think to Dave's point, we have a duty as a board to ensure that all elements of SECRA are covered. And one of them is pedestrian safety and overall traffic, right?
Yes.
Affecting the environmental conditions of the area. And if we sort of left that untouched, waiting for the DOT to make a determination, I feel like we haven't done our job in its entirety. Does that make sense, Dave? Is that the point that you were trying to?
Yes, I wanted to make sure that there was an adequate reflection that the issue of this relationship between the crossing has been adequately addressed. And it sounds like you've already initiated your discussions with DOT.
Yes,
You've shown some of the elements on your plan, but I think there needs to be a reflection that there may be additional requirements that DOT may impose that would further enhance safety in this area.
I think what you were saying, Dave, makes the most sense. And to address the gentleman's point, the study under SECRA and pedestrian safety concerns and the potential for environmental impacts, the board is, right to call out detail or condition its approval on detail that may or may not be on SY9, which we're happy to fulfill, which will round out the board's study of pedestrian impacts to health safety, the crossing, what the crossing involves, whether a stop sign is as effective as the speed bump. And if there is a gate, how does that function or enhance or detract from safety on both sides? But it's going to be subject to DOT reviewing and conditioning its permit. But I don't think I'm confident that does not undercut the board's SECRA analysis, which it has done, which it has studied. It's asked the right questions. And in terms of the detail on the plan, I think that has been satisfied. But again, there's no way to predict what DOT will condition on top of our requirements that we've shown in the special permit conditions and what the easement requires. But of course, your point is well taken under SECRA, and that's the point.
I may have missed it, Dave. Did they do a traffic study where they gave projected vehicular crossings?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was part of the.
Do you recall off the top of your head the counts there? Or no?
The trip counts across, I don't.
3 trips per
It's low, yeah.
hour peak.
De minimis.
It was the minimums, right? All right, that's where I was.
Single
Okay.
family home.
That's my fault for not being prepared on that aspect, but I'm glad that you guys remembered that. So thank you.
Other board member questions or comments?
I would just like to comment that the desire for detail is not limited to the needs of the board. It's so that the public
Yes.
can properly understand. And and we've been getting very good concerning feedback about people's concerns about the whole issue, the current state of affairs with litter and et cetera, and usage and people crossing properties anyway. But really to have an understanding of how gates would function, et cetera, traffic concerns. So much of that relates to what we've been seeing in the emails. It's really to help the public in understanding. Related question, when we at some point in time have to refer this to the town board, can as a packet travel with it? all of the communications. I mean, so many people have taken their
Oh,
time.
I'm sure it will. It
to
will.
write.
Oh,
I think
Yeah,
it makes sense. to really-
Absolutely.
Yes.
To prepare it as a package for
Yeah.
them to see it all at once.
Yeah.
Don't make them ask for it. Just
No,
send
no,
it along.
you're absolutely right. What you would be providing to the town board, if you decided to go with a negative declaration, would be all of the background material that the applicant has submitted, so that the town board has a complete record. Because you're absolutely right, we don't want to reinvent the wheel here. And just so the public knows, all of the public comments that have come in have been provided to your board and to the town board. Because simultaneously.
Seeing it parallel, great.
Yes, so they are aware of the concerns being expressed by the public. Yes.
I don't have much more to add, but it's similar to what you're all saying. I think it is important to detail out the gates and the crossing a little bit better for public knowledge. I was a little confused by it too. I was assuming the gate is going to go across the rail trail, not the road.
Yeah, Mr. Christensen, this is a good point for me to put this in the record, which is we have to come back, if we're referring out on the 280A to town board, we're coming back to your board regardless.
Right.
And we're going to show those details so that that concern is satisfied. And obviously representing the applicants,
Right.
We're satisfied that we've addressed it to your satisfaction. The board, DOT will have the opportunity, if we have a secret determination, we'll have the opportunity to sit with the DOT, better understand what other conditions may be fitting for this, and then report back to the board once that process is complete. So this will be coming back to you regardless.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we are getting public comments from emails about the concern of it. You brought up Jilco. Chris, you were bringing up the point about Jilco not having gates. Thinking about other crossings, I use the trail often. There is the major road crossings, that's like you're saying, totally different situation. You got much more traffic flow. This situation, you have 3 houses. You're not going to have much traffic going back and forth. You'll have the residents of the house, UPS, FedEx, mail. There is a similar crossing that wasn't brought up either down in Yorktown, a little south of us. There is a wastewater treatment plant
Right.
crossing that probably will have similar traffic to Jilco. Yep, it's down into a valley, back up again. There is recently installed gates there. There wasn't gates in the past couple of years. There maybe 2 years ago, there was gates installed there. So it's just, I think it's important for everybody, public and us, to just detail out a little bit more clear there.
Steve? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any other board member comments? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just
Good.
thought of something that you're not going to be happy with.
Who?
The applicant won't be
Oh.
happy with. Thought just occurred to me. I remember being the young bride and buying the first home in Somers. I would never buy a house with a driveway that went onto the bike path. I really wouldn't. I would consider it detrimental. I love the bike path, but it's a silent menace. And it would, I just couldn't resist saying that.
Steve,
Great.
please.
For the purposes of just the environmental impacts completeness, you did mention some of our comments about wetland mitigation and the offsite property. Excuse me. We did note that in the stormwater pollution prevention plan, the water quality volume is proposed to be met for the entrance driveway by the rain garden along there. And so in our mind, that area then doesn't qualify as wetland mitigation because its primary function is a stormwater purpose.
Right.
I think there are other areas, including where you've otherwise identified wetland mitigation, that would be appropriate. But just that increases the total area of disturbance by that amount for completeness overall. And because we did have a public comment that suggested that the town's interest in or review of this process might be colored by the fact that a donation of land has been offered to the town. Just wanted to be clear that the town has taken no position on accepting that piece of parcel, and that's maybe premature to propose at this time.
We're aware of that.
Thank you. I, for one, I'd still like to have some kind of response back from DOT and Westchester County Parks. I know what you're saying, but is there any way we can set up a meeting or something just to get, I would just feel more comfortable having them, if you add some things to your drawings, let them see it and review it and comment. I'd just like to hear what they have to say before we start doing our secret review.
You know, we took it one step further. We actually applied for a permit. We paid the fees for a crossing. So we submitted an active permit pen to evaluate. And after many emails, they would not move it further because of the issue that they don't want to do a secret determination. And since you're a lead, I think they're trying to evaluate how to move.
So you have described.
We're waiting on them.
Well, yeah, it's not so much, wait, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I just would feel a little more comfortable just to hear a comment on it from them.
Get it. I'm just going to debate it with you in the sense that we're not finalizing the process.
No.
With this.
No, we're not.
That's the problem.
And I understand council's point about how in-depth do you need to be to do a secret determination based on, they've already presented a traffic study. We're aware that DOT has the final say, but only after we do a
Right.
determination. I think that we as a board representing the community is doing due diligence in advising the applicant. They need to make notations on the plan for us to approve for SECRA that includes the stop signs at the gates, with the understanding somewhere that it's preliminary or tentative, whatever word you want to use, until DOT gives the final stamp, because that is their property, so to speak, right? That's their right of way, that they easement that they control. So they would ultimately say that. So instead of just getting in this bureaucratic loop where we're waiting for them, they're waiting for us. And we've seen this in other plans with DEC and DEP trying to get their acts together and environmental issues. We have projects that have been delayed for years, literally. Right? So I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, I'm gonna put this out for the board. How do you feel if they come back next month with these additions we've asked them for on the plan, and then we do the secret review? Just throwing it out.
Well, I think you have all the information that you need in order to make a determination. I think the issue here, this one specific issue, is that there were certain requirements. It's ultimately the DOT's responsibility. Like you, they have a major concern about public safety. So they are going to do everything in their power to make sure that crossing is as safe as possible, along with you. You have combined interests in that issue. They do have a legal right to cross the trailway. And so they do have some property rights there that ascribe to those properties. There is still a process after you conclude your environmental determination, right, where this process has to go to the town board for a 280A determination. So you're still a long way away from granting any type of approval. But I think you have enough information, in my own personal opinion, to make a determination if you so desire.
I agree with the plan.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
I do. Yep.
I think the other slight complicating factor is that the applicant has just disclosed that what he really wants is to not have the gates. So he's going to, we get to that DOT threshold, but part of the application, I think you've said, is that you're going to say, but we don't want the gate.
No, I don't think that's the applicant's stated intention. The applicant will do.
I think
Well, our,
Because Mr. Crusoe, you didn't
I
say
can
it.
clarify that. Well,
So I would,
No.
yeah,
I'll blame the engineer for
Wait a
once.
So we looked at various scenarios with DOT to what a gate is. And so basically, we presented various concepts. It could be two rails swinging in opposite directions. It could be a gate that slides on lateral rails across a gate, across the driveway. And so when we're talking about a gate, we don't want to put, 8-foot high stockade fence across the driveway. We're looking at alternatives with them. So it might be just two swinging components that close to restrict access.
Mr. Caruso, oh,
We haven't
excuse
gotten
me,
to that yet.
well, excuse me, Mr. Caruso, you had mentioned something about not calling it a gate, but controlled access. Is that
Right.
so?
It's not that we're trying to deny what that phrase implies, right? It doesn't explicitly say gate, but there's only so many ways you can control access.
Right, but I
So
think
we
that,
acknowledge that.
but that gets to Vicky's point is that, the issue is you want to control access. So that whether it's a gate or whether it's some other
Yeah.
form, it's.
But there's a bigger problem. I mean, with regard to the site doesn't have a lot of sight line up and down the pathway. So, whether you put an iron gate there from a prison or a sliding gate, once that's open, there's no visibility, especially going north. There's no visibility because of the land that goes up probably about 6 feet. There's no visibility up the way. So, I mean, I don't care if there's 100 cars going or 3 cars going. It still presents the problem that the car is not going to be able to see somebody riding down that pathway. And that's what I was explaining when you showed those other intersections. The other intersections, as far as I could see, were very wide open spaces and everybody could see it. And forget about stop signs, because nobody stops at stop signs. I can tell you that from living in Somers and living in Heritage Hills, that stop signs are just something that people look at as they go by. So I would not recommend a stop sign as being a valid way of controlling traffic.
I get your point. I believe that those are semantics to be discussed at site plan, right? The details of how, right? Because again, Dave Smith said it best, not said it best. He quoted the law that says they have rights to these properties, right? And the easements that are attached to it. There's no caveat that goes, oh, but if there's no visibility, right? That we can certainly address and discuss. But I think that we need to feel comfortable that we've done everything that we can to determine that there's minimal environmental impact as it's presented, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like that's kind of like what our mission is at this point. So that now the town board can now look at the subdivision and all the other aspects of this project. And then when it comes back to us, we can discuss what access control means to you and what we determine it to be and what the DOT I'm sure as regulated as DOT is, they have some specifications on height, width, material, all that stuff, right? So we'll get to that point.
And Mr. Zaperto, you're right. And when we submit the DOT to whatever conditions or assessments they have line of sight, determinations and analysis they're going to do as well. The DOT could determine we need more trees down to create a safer intersection as well, which this board will then,
Address that.
exactly.
I
So
mean, I get it.
we have to be head on with that.
Right.
Of
And
course.
I recognize as a board member, there is a lot of concern in the community. The rail trail is heavily used by people in both at that area, in both Putnam and in Westchester. So it kind of goes in concentric circles beyond Somers. So, I get it. But at the same token, I have to respect the rights of the landowner here. And we need to sort of move this into the next phase where now we can pick this apart and determine what's right, what's wrong, what's proper.
Right.
Then we'll move into a public hearing. And then we can hear from the general public, not just an email, but now with inflection and everything else that helps us, make determinations.
Correct.
And then guide you guys into the right pathway to make this plan work or not work, depending on how it all rolls out, right? That's kind of how it works. So that's all I have to say on it.
It's a minor point. It is illegal to landlock land. And this property has been taxed all these years as developable land.
Right.
That's what we are grappling with,
So
allowing that
So
safely.
we'll do the review next meeting. Okay?
Does that mean a public hearing?
No. Public hearing is after it comes back from the town board.
So there's not going to be they're not going to move on a neg or a pause deck tonight.
Well, it's up to you if you want to.
Well, it's up to the rest of the board on
Board,
107. If you want to go through it all.
Why would we wait till next month?
Okay.
And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm
That's fine.
advocating for this.
Then we'll do it tonight.
project in any
I got no
way, shape,
problem.
or form.
No, I understand.
I'm advocating for due process. That's
Yeah,
it.
I think, Mr. Chairman, so what I would suggest is that you have parts 2 and part 3 of the environmental
I don't know if I
assessment.
brought them with me, to be honest with you.
So perhaps it would make sense for the record that we prepare parts 2 and parts 3, along with a narrative that shows how the record supports the determinations.
Okay.
While we have everything here, and Mr. Scott has provided an effective summary of all the information, perhaps as a part of a written record so that it's clear and that you have a substantial record in order to make that vote. That would be my suggestion. I know, just understand that you have to wait another month. I think the direction, at least that I'm hearing from the board, is that you would like to go in a negative declaration, or declare a negative declaration, but I would feel more comfortable having a written record presented to you, fully describing parts 2 and parts 3 with narrative. That's okay.
That's fine. From the applicant's standpoint, we want the board to do, to do its job under secret. We don't want to obviously imply that there's a time clock here, but we want the board to be comfortable with this decision and have everything in front of it and available when it ultimately decides, however it decides. So we're fine with that. If that's
Okay. Yeah.
So upon your direction, I'll begin to prepare a response to the 2 and 3.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant or for our town planner or engineer?
Okay, a question. What is the timeline between the preparation of that and us starting to work on whatever we would do for a referral? Is that,
It could be coterminous. It's
Right.
simultaneous.
So-
So in other words, yeah, you would conclude the environmental review
Right.
and then formally refer the matter to the town board, same meeting.
Same meeting.
A decision on a declaration.
Well, no, you would make your decision on the neg deck at the next meeting
Yeah.
Right.
with
Right.
all the documentation in front of you
And then refer.
and refer at the same
so we
time.
can give you whatever notes and comments,
Yes.
so you can put together that memo at that point, so we can do a determination, give you some feedback for what goes with that, with the package, with the emails. So it's all
Yes.
moving together at the same time. Okay,
Yes, and
Yeah, those will be all the comments at the next meeting. And will be part of the package.
correct. Okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, he's going to provide a written summary of where we're at this point.
Okay.
Parts 2 and 3.
parts 2 and
Parts
3.
2 and 3.
Parts 2 and 3.
Okay?
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. For the public, I just want to kind of summarize. We're going to make a determination at the next meeting. And we will make a recommendation to the town board. Then the town board will review our recommendation and then make their decision on the
288.
280A. Based on what they send back to us. If the project continues forward and we will have a public hearing at some point in time, but everybody will have plenty of notice. Plenty of notice. Next on our agenda is Penny proposed 2-lot subdivision at 19 Olive Drive. It's an application for preliminary subdivision, tree removal, stormwater management, erosion and sediment control permit, and a steep slope permit for the creation of 2 lots from one existing lot with a single family house. And where proposed access to the new lot is only available from an unimproved but mapped town road in an R10 district located at 19 Olive Drive. Good evening.
Good evening, John Carell, representing Mr. Burrell and Patty. You've seen this before. Hopefully this is coming to an end. I saw a draft resolution. Hopefully, appreciate if you could approve that resolution. So we can go to the health department and get their approval. Although their approval is, we've submitted the plans to the health department and their comments are.
Can you go into the mic just a little more?
Huh?
Can you just go into the mic a little more, please?
Okay, the comments from the health department have been all addressed. So we're pretty confident that this is going to be approved by the health department, but the health department will not act until this board grants preliminary approval.
Dave, you have any comments on this?
No, I have none.
Steve?
I think they're
Just a
more
couple.
related to Steve.
A couple little minor things, Steve, and that's it, right?
Yeah, we had minor comments just for completeness to the record, just to compile some of the documents that the applicant has provided, but just as a single cohesive package for the record.
Board member comments, everybody get a chance to look over the resolution?
Yes.
Yeah, I have one question. There was a submission by the applicant of testing, I think subsequent to our last meeting, and it had your stamp on it, but I didn't see it noted in the resolution. Remember, there was an email and it had a series of attachments, and one was measurements, and it had your seal on it, Mr. Carroll.
Yes, it was, I believe it was the stormwater
17.
perks and deeps that were done maybe 2.5 years ago now, but and I've submitted it to the board and Steve has it.
And so
The design is based on that, those determinations, the
I
perk
think
tests. and the
that
deep tests.
email was, I want to say I got it on the 17th of May or something. I was looking at it last night. I was going through emails and I didn't see it. I was trying to see where it was memorialized in this document.
It's our open comment to the applicant that essentially we've made a note that they've prepared, they performed percolation tests and deep hole tests for the stormwater infiltration system. They've provided that to us, but we would like them packaged along with the stormwater report as a
Okay, so
single
that's part of
document. That's part of that.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, this whole application falls flat, obviously, if you don't get Board of Health approval. We've talked about that.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So that's the condition. So everybody knows this is where we're at. Okay. Any board member comments? Otherwise, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-08.
I'm just looking to see where that's detailed in here. And that was another thing I didn't see. Was it going to be explicitly listed as a condition?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Condition number 9, page 5 of 5. Yep, right, where it falls under the applicant addressing the items in the town's engineering consultant review memo.
Okay.
Yep, I gave you that list. So
Should it more explicitly so that the reader of this document and have it, which includes the required approval from Westchester County Department.
that's not.
Like you're looking in the file and you pick up the resolution and you're reading it as a legal document.
Okay. So the question is, does there need to be a reference to county health?
Yes,
So this is subject to county health department?
explicitly. Should it say, is it, I mean, you're referring to another document. But if I'm reading this and I don't have that document, and so much of our discussion has been premised on, but nothing happens unless they get the required approval. So, and as I was reading this at my lunch break, without the accessory documents next to me, I said to myself, where in this document? I saw the site thing, the citation, right? That I can pick up right away. But where in this document is the condition that we all accept, but shouldn't it be memorialized in here that the applicant has to achieve that approval?
It's comment number 10 in number 9. It's not, to your point, Vicky, it's not listed, it's not enumerated what that comment entails. But that from that engineering memo, comment number 10 is that the applicant needs to provide approval from the health department.
Okay.
So
it
it's
doesn't have to say it explicitly. It's okay. That it's, okay.
it's board's preference how.
Yeah, I typically like, I don't like to overburden resolutions. I think if it's part of the record and Steve's memo is part of the record, then it could be, yeah, we can go back, just like we reference the different meetings that the applicant has been at. So you can go back to the minutes of each of those meetings, and that's part of the record. So that's good.
That I understand. And I've dug through the record. I've had files pulled and gone through to look for things.
Yeah.
Nancy could tell you I've done it, but I just wanted to, since we had such a focus on it, just ask if you want to include that. As long as you're okay with it, I'm fine. Council's okay with it, I'm fine.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, let me just finish reading the resolution. It's the granting of conditional preliminary subdivision approval, stormwater management and erosion and sediment control permit, and a steep slopes permit, tree removal permit to Panvar Realty, town tax number, section 5.15, block 1, lot 90. Okay, Chris, you make that motion?
I do.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is Wingy environmental permits for the development at 9 Carolyn Way. It's application for steep slope, tree removal, stormwater management and erosion sediment control permits for the construction of a single family house, driveway, septic system, and a well. The 1.37 acre property is located in the R10 zoning district.
first I want to apologize. I was not able to attend the sidewalk.
And I apologize because I didn't wake up till 8:45.
Yeah, I apologize for sleeping through it myself.
I apologize because I had previous plans.
I don't have to apologize because I
Bruce was
showed
there.
up.
You fell.
Yeah, he fell down.
and I fell.
8:00 is better.
John Carell representing Mr. Mancini. So we had the site walk, and based on the site walk, it was determined that the driveway was a little bit too close to a steep slope area. We've relocated the driveway closer to their property line and further into the property to avoid that steep slope area. And we do have health department approval. It was approved on December 12th, 2022. We hope that we can get this going to a public hearing.
David and Steve?
No comments.
Steve?
We did have some comments on the engineering, really just documentation of the stormwater measures and making sure that that's complete, including this revised plan, which I don't think we've received yet. And it would be my recommendation to the board that we have a complete package for the board's review over the course of that month prior to or period of time before the public hearing is scheduled, so that the board has an opportunity to determine if it is a complete enough package to represent, to accept the public comment on. I think at this point, I feel it's a little early for that, but I'm sure the applicant can move ahead quickly and get us the documentation that we've requested.
Board?
Good with it.
That's
Okay.
good.
Well,
I know you're not okay, but
no, but, it's going to be a month before the public hearing. Can you not schedule the public hearing? And I'll get, these plans are already done, so I can get them to Steve tomorrow. And he can comment on them.
I think sorry,
Go ahead. Good.
I think the situation we'd like to avoid is that from the prior application before the board where there were project changes during the course of the public hearing. And as the applicant was addressing the technical comments on the proposed project, that was requiring the applicant to make changes to the project and thereby keeping the public hearing open so that the public had the opportunity to comment on that ever-changing plan. But it's at the board's discretion how you'd like to proceed.
you have not seen these plans?
I have not, no.
It's just a change in the driveway location, not the
Understood.
rest of the plan. I mean, the house is going to stay where it is. The driveway was moved slightly to avoid the steep slope. It's it. I mean, we have health department approval. The septic staying where it is, the well staying where it is.
Define slightly.
Was that
Define slightly. How far is slightly to be moved?
the driveway?
Yeah. 600 feet.
No.
Slightly to go.
It's about,
It's interpretation.
Maybe 20 feet up this way,
yeah,
and a little bit towards this
property line.
This property is owned by this property.
Yeah,
We were looking at the driveway, moving it when we were at the site visit. You were also talking about if you have to move that driveway, there's a potential you'd have to downsize from a 4 to a 3-family house. Is that still the same plan as a 4-family house?
No, it's
Oh, yeah, 4-bedroom house.
It's a 4-bedroom house, but we moved the driveway a little bit closer to the septic because we have the distance there. The septic has to be like 5 feet from a driveway, and it's 10.
Okay, so the only change really is the driveway
Yeah,
dimensions.
to make it a little better.
yeah, we saw where, I think we saw where they were gonna
Yeah.
put it and where they're gonna start it closer to the property line. I don't see a problem with, if he gets those drawings to you, quickly, that we can't set
What we could always do is if it should happen like at the last applicant, if things came up, we can keep the public hearing open.
That's certainly the board's discretion. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Then I'll make a motion. We schedule a public hearing for our next, unless you have something to say.
Is there anything schedule wise that you can see in terms of your availability, et cetera, depending on when the applicant delivers this? Is it something time wise that you can meet the review?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to put an undue
Nope.
burden on you.
thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Motion was on the table, right? So I'll second that.
Yes.
Open a public hearing.
For our next scheduled meeting, which is July 12th, I think. Is that right? July 12th. Okay.
That's fine. Steve, you want these plans now?
No, please send them electronically. I appreciate that, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do the higher.
Oh, thank you. It was just brought to my attention. There was a motion made in a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry, did you not catch that? Evening. Next is RSEC Corporation Site Plan Approval for a parking lot expansion located at 378 Route 202. It's the site plan review for parking lot expansion, which is the installation of 12 new parking spaces to be utilized for overflow parking and an area to plow snow. The 1.06 acre property is located in the BHP district.
Good evening, Tim Allen, Associates, representing Dr. Bernani and RSEC. We were before the board last month and we were told to respond to Steve Robbins' comments. We had responded to those comments. We have some further comments generated from our responses, but in my opinion, nothing really major that would prevent this board from scheduling a public hearing. We'll certainly get back to the board in quick response. Matter of fact, these, as a previous applicant, we've already done these and we'll submit for the next deadline for the next board meeting. So essentially, it's the parking area that we saw in the field. From the planning board site walk, we did switch out the arborvitaes on the plan, so we get something a little more deer resistant. The lighting will be just the existing lights. There were some lighting comments that we'll respond to in section of the lighting code, which I think was done today. So I think we're in pretty good shape to consider holding a public hearing on this.
Steve, you seem in favor of the comments were not that significant.
No, I'm sure in this case, the applicants provide a bit more stormwater analysis than on the prior application. And so I expect that will be addressed and this is a simpler project as well.
Dave?
So, Mr. Allen, if the board decides to schedule a public hearing, part of the process, because this is the BHP, there's a referral to the town board, the landmarks, ARB, and open space committee. So I'd just like, if you do schedule the public hearing, I'd just like to work with you on making sure we have a comprehensive package that goes to each of those individual boards so that they have kind of an understanding of the full scope of the project.
Understood.
Okay. Board member comments?
I think we need to have an understanding between us that no further work at the site will be performed until this process is complete.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already talked to Dr. Ronnie about the fact that it got done to begin with. So we're not doing anything on the site until such time as your approval is in place. Yeah, and actually he's under.
That's just maintenance, right?
He's technically under violation from the building department still, so he's got to stop work order on it.
Yes.
So he can't do any work and it's been cordoned off and he hasn't used it.
Okay.
Steve, what does the architectural review board deal with on this project?
Because it's in the VHP.
Oh, but
They comment.
no, okay.
Yeah, by code, architectural review board gets comment because it's in the BHP zone.
Okay.
Well, let me back up. So as part of the initial submission of this application, because it's in the BHP, there needs to be, there was a Business Historic Preservation District Technical Committee, and this is in the code. So we met with the town engineer, Steve Wolfel, Tom Tuma, the building inspector, the town historian, the open space committee, John Alfonsetti, who represents the architectural review board. Dr. Anani was there and Mr. Allen was there. So they've had a kind of an initial meeting with a representative of the architectural review board. Now, if you schedule the public hearing, this formal application will be sent to the ARB for their review and comment back.
Okay.
So they're still going to get another chance to review the revisions that have been made to the site plan.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Good.
Make a motion that we move this project forward.
And schedule a public hearing
Schedule a public hearing
for July 12th.
July 12th. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you are. Okay. Next is an application for special permit modification for the American Tower Corp. Verizon at 2580 Route 35. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Doug Cowan, and thank you for allowing me to join by Zoom. I was at the meeting last month for this application, and I have reviewed the draft resolution. I'm prepared to answer any questions that you might have, but I believe that the applicant has complied with the requirements up till this point. So I guess the only question is whether you have any questions that I can help you with.
Steve, Dave, or any board member have any questions?
Did he ask?
If we had any questions.
Any questions?
How do we get the speaker to work?
Yes.
You're on the other side of it.
Couldn't hear
Yeah,
mine.
look.
No, I don't think it's.
Stuff
Is it?
out.
All right, anyway.
I
Sorry,
know.
Council.
Our one technical comment is addressed in the draft resolution, and that's the applicant provide per the town code, a structural engineering inspection based on a personal inspection or assessment based on a personal inspection. And that's captured in the memo, in the draft resolution.
And as an aside, for what it's worth, Dave is working on to get Somers into the 20th century so that we can kind of skip some of these things. And you too, I know, you and
Working on it.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If the board's okay, I make a motion for resolution 2023-7 for the grant of conditional amended special permit approval and amended site plan approval to the Verizon for the modification and upgrade of existing Verizon wireless facility at 2580 Route 35. And for the record, it's town tax number section 37.13, block 2, lot 3.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you.
When will the signed resolution be available?
When will it be ready to be signed?
Probably within a week or so.
Okay, and
Yeah.
we'll
let you know when it's available.
are we able to apply for a building permit now, or how does that work?
Well, one of the conditions in the resolution is that you need to respond to the town engineer's memo, items 1 and 3B, before you can submit for a building permit. So as soon as you get that done, you can submit for a building permit.
Item 3B was the FCC license, and I did submit that at the meeting on May 10th, so I believe that's been satisfied. And let me see the item. Let me just see. And if you need another copy of that, I have it. I can transmit it, but it was just a one-page copy of the FCC license. And I forget what 3 is. But oh, here it is. I'll make sure that if you don't, I think that we already submitted the number 1, also the report from the signed and sealed radio frequency report. So I believe both of those items have been complied with.
Well, if they have, then Dave will give me a call and I'll be in and sign.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, everyone. I appreciate your
Thank you.
Your action on this, and I hope you have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not on the agenda, but Dave and I discussed, we wanted to just have a little discussion on this zoning proposal that's going to be before the town board. So falls in your court.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had a meeting with Tom Tuma. He had a constituent who had started to do some work, and he lives in the Lincolndale area. If you're familiar with, I sent over the notice of intent, and that includes the map from the 2016 comprehensive plan. So in the southern portion of this area, there's a property owner who owns a single family home, and he started to do some work on his property, and Mr. Tuma had to put a stop work order on. And so anyways, we went round and round, and we met with the applicant, and it turns out that a single family home in the NS district is a non-conforming use. So in order for that property owner to make improvements, they have to go to the zoning board of appeals for a use variance. That's a fairly high threshold. And so it started this discussion of, all right, well, let's look at the zoning and I looked at the comprehensive plan, and in the comprehensive plan, there are specific recommendations that not only this particular property owner's property, but there are, I think, 5 or 6 others should be rezoned from NS, the neighborhood shopping, to R10. And then, so I presented this to the town board, and they started looking at this is figure 6 from the comprehensive plan. And they said, but there are other proposed zoning amendments. And part of it is rezoning a portion of Lincoln Hall from NS to R120. And then there's another one going from NS to R40, because that's an adjacent district. And then there's a proposal, recommendation in the comprehensive plan to rezone certain segments from NS to OLI, office light industrial. And while initially we were focused on just the residential piece and rezoning the Lincoln Hall piece, the town board said, well, there are recommendations in the comprehensive plan, let's do them all. But just the zoning recommendations, that there are other proposals in there which talk to pedestrian circulation and those types of things, but those are separate. Those are separate items. So the town board said, all right, well, let's move forward on on implementing recommendations in our own comprehensive plan. And so one of the things that I wanted just to bring to your attention, not only this residential component piece, but also you have an active application, the McNamee application, which is in this proposal to be rezoned from NS to the OLI light industrial. And if you look at the recommendations, in the comprehensive plan, they even recognize that that there's a contractor lots, and that rezoning it to the OLI, there are currently pre-existing non-conforming uses, and they would remain so in the OLI district, but they would still have the opportunity to change to other permitted uses over time, and the OLI might present additional opportunities going forward. So the town board at their last meeting issued a notice of intent to act as lead agency. It's been circulated to your board, county planning, the other interested and involved agencies, DOT, DEC, I believe DEP, New York City DEP as well. And so the question is, do you want to discuss it tonight? There's a request. The town board is putting a notice of intent to act as lead agency. So at the very least, you could say we have no objection to the town board acting as lead agency.
They have to be, they're the only ones that can make the changes, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that, but that's been the position of Mr. Baroni, and I'm not going to argue with Mr. Baroni on that matter. If that's the way he's done things in the past on behalf of the town, then I'm not going to be one to object. I think that you can do that as part of the process. So you could provide response back to the town board. You have no objection to them acting as lead agency. And then whether you want to entertain this tonight or at your next meeting, whether you have any issues, understanding that these are all recommendations in the comprehensive plan. So these are things that the public has at some point discussed. There's been, a review. There was a whole process for the comprehensive plan to be adopted. So there's nothing new that's being proposed here. It's just implementing current recommendations from the
What's the reason for putting the Lincoln Hall property in, what'd you say, R120?
Yes, the R120, because the Lincoln Hall property is actually zoned R120. And I don't know the background of this, but the piece of property of Lincoln Hall that fronts on Lovell Street,
right,
was zoned NS neighborhood shopping. So whether at some point way back in the past, somebody thought that this would be a commercial shopping strip of some sort, I think over time, there hasn't been any interest in developing that as a commercial piece. There probably just isn't enough kind of traffic in and around the area. So the recommendation in the comprehensive plan was to rezone it from NS to R120.
Is that property owned by Lincoln Hall?
That's,
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Then, okay, I don't have a problem.
they just never got around to making the changes, basically what you're
Right.
saying.
that's all. And this whole thing started because there was a
Right.
single family
What's
property
the
owner.
title that you all are giving this application?
Rezoning.
I know, but it has to have a title.
Hold on.
What do you call it?
Hold on. Well, excuse me. In the environmental assessment form that we just have zoning map amendments, town of Somers, and then under project location, general vicinity, Route 202 and Lovell Street. And we reference the figure 6 from the comprehensive plan. And then under the description of the proposed action, implementation of recommendations from the town's adopted comprehensive plan affecting approximately 19 acres, rezoning portions from NS neighborhood shopping to R20, R10, R40, and OLI light industrial.
So it's a 19-acre project in Lincolndale being considered for rezoning?
Correct.
Yeah, but I don't like to use the word project. There's no project. This is
No
just a
project.
rezoning.
Right.
It's not a project.
This is just implementing.
This is just implementing what
Recommendations.
the
Right.
comprehensive plan had made as a suggestion years ago.
I have one question. We have another application before us for the self-storage, and as part of that application, Nancy had quite rightly asked you, Dave, to do a survey of what are the other OLI zoning that would be implicated by an addition of a self-storage use.
Mhm.
So how does the timing of analysis of that dovetail with the possible creation of additional OLI that would meet the requirements or not,
Mhm.
and for evaluation and discussion?
So that would be a comment back to the town board. And I believe that the July meeting of the town board, they'll be considering that rezoning of the piece on 100 to OLI. So we can, certainly, regardless of whether you want to advance this discussion any further, we can certainly bring that discussion or that implication to the town board's attention.
I think
And I don't know if you got the response, but the other OLI property is the Jilco property.
Gilco, yes, that was the one
Yes.
up there, yes.
Right.
These aren't really changes. These are just implementing something that's been passed years ago.
Yeah.
It just never got the zoning change.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's a change.
Yeah. But no, but I'm
Yeah.
saying this, it's gone through all the process. It's had public hearings. It's
Right.
had everything. It's just, they never made the changes.
They never made they
This
never
is not
implemented it. So-
Really something new per
No.
se.
No, I just want to make sure if we're doing an analysis to make sure we fold that in
Mm.
to the analysis,
Sure.
does it, when you start to put the statutory requirements on it, what happens?
I, for one, don't have any problem sending a recommendation to town board, let them be the lead agency.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's more rateable.
Yes. So do you want to hold off on any other discussion or just that you have no objection and,
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
No
no
objection.
objection.
See, yeah.
okay.
That's a motion if I need to do it.
Okay.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and our next meeting is July 12th, 2023 at 7:30.
Very good.
I will not be at that meeting.
Yeah, just let me just close the meeting, okay? No, there's no public hearing tonight.
I have a question.
Okay, can we just close the meeting and then you can ask?
Process.
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
answer
yep,
it now,
sure.
and then we'll entertain your question.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sure.